Is it all right when the solution is the problem? Do the ends now justify the means because of the corruption of the current administration? Are local leaders allowed to gentrify a part of town to meet their personal political goals, even breaking the law to do so and ruining lives in the process? Is it now okay for nonprofit and non-government entities to treat citizens and businesses any way they choose, with no regard for fairness, recourse, remedy, or retribution? Are they allowed to tear up communities, commerce, and sustainability with their ignorance, greed, ineptitude, pompousness, because the results will be nice when it's done? My name is Larry Broussard, CEO and Principal Consultant at It Is, and I'm speaking out. I approved this video. I wrote it, I edited it, I compiled the contents, and I produced it in the studio section of my shop. I did everything, although many volunteered to help. But my concerns are more specific, and I don't want anybody else in trouble about this. I've never feared to speak against iniquity and wrongdoing, even in my own circles, my own failures, and my own shortcomings. This situation certainly won't be an exception. It hits too close to home. I'm from the streets of South Los Angeles. I grew up in Watts, attended Jordan High School, Stanford University, and Howard University School of Divinity. I continue to serve the church to this day. I also served in the U.S. Army. I was fortunate to travel around the world delivering on technology. I followed in my father's footsteps as a minister and an entrepreneur. I came back home to make a difference in my community through IT and business, but not to be railroaded out of business. None of these officials are stupid. Well, we hope they're not stupid, but the evidence is clear. New businesses are not evaluated according to the BIF guidelines, and it is perfectly okay, because if they had looked, they would have corrected the simple mistake. These people didn't look, and they also don't care. PCR violates provisions for a $50 million public fund and cover up gross ineptitude, and it's okay with our local officials. We live in distressing times when people shun scrutiny and create scandal to avoid the embarrassment of their own ineptitude and stupidity. People in positions of responsibility should recognize that they are accountable. Non-government agencies should not allow any organization to operate without scrutiny. When public officials fail to provide proper oversight and control over public services, the services fail to help the people as it should. Question is, why is any wrongdoing and cover-up involved at all? Scratch a lie, find a thief. What's really happening on Crenshaw Boulevard is more than meets the eye. Businesses and residents are concerned, even exasperated, but don't speak up, because when you speak up, you become the problem. I don't want to sound paranoid, but why did things happen this way? And why did they pick me? PCR wrecked business sustainability and nobody cares. PCR betrayed the public trust. There's a reason. The desired end is not to assist businesses, but to replace businesses, as many as possible, and preferably, it appears, with housing. The plan is gentrification by construction. Too often the powerful lean heavily against the weak and powerless, insensitively and with no regard for truth or consequence. That's the insensitivity of gentrification, the human part people choose to ignore. But what happened here was more than gentrification. This was corruption. The public trust was violated at multiple levels and agreed to by the wrong officials to support Los Angeles's endgame. Retake Crenshaw, artfully or not. Did all new businesses get the it is treatment as was suggested? If so, then the unfairness of this process needs to be addressed quickly and a fix applied before the lifeblood of more businesses is choked off and more businesses are unfairly lost due to gross incompetence and breach of the public trust. If not, then we could have a more serious problem here. If it is was singled out as an isolated incident, if PCR with Metro is found to have performed these actions deliberately and on purpose against it is, that's definitely abusing the public trust for private concerns, which borders on criminal misconduct. Inaction towards ineptitude and corruption shouldn't be allowed to fester as it does in Washington, D.C. We can't allow lawlessness to manifest in Los Angeles. We're the second largest city in the country. Things are getting out of hand. We must expose wrongdoing and vigilantly speak truth to power, because lawlessness is the greatest threat to our democracy even today. The Metro Business Interruption Fund should be placed under immediate review, and Pacific Coast Regional Corporation should answer for their actions, ineptitude, and misconduct. Officials responsible for oversight of the bill should answer for their lack of action and deliberate circumvention of duty to address PCR's shortcomings. PCR should be directed to correct every deficiency they cause through their circumvention of duties, rectifying or recovering every lost business. And Mr. Andre Hardy should be fired. Gentrification is no excuse to break the law, and to have black administrators, black executive, and black managed nonprofit entities doing the job with black politicians signing off doesn't obviate the reality of this dastardly deed against yet another black community in Los Angeles. This was a plan, a gentrification plan. Police injustice and malfeasance is enough of a problem to deal with in the hood. Rank and file cover-up exacerbates police problems and corruption in every community of color nationwide. Make no mistake, we're shot and killed for the color of our skin. Others do far more and walk away. We're killed on a notion with no recourse. Whether I live or die isn't political. NYPD and its fascist attitudes have it twisted. I have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of my happiness. When police decide to snuff out my life for no apparent reason, they're guilty of murder. Many feel that blacks are making progress when we see black faces on leaders in our communities and in government. But the truth is, hiring black administrators, local or out of town, using black nonprofits to perform dirty work, and electing black officials to portray the right optics doesn't make this any less oppressive, any less of an inner city atrocity, or any less of gentrification. Los Angeles has a decades-long history of targeted redlining, family separation, community displacement, gentrification, and cultural destruction south of City Hall. The Iran-Contra drug scandal almost wiped South Los Angeles out in the 80s. I left home to join the Army because of it. Now I'm back. I see the same kind of madness going on in our communities, even threatening business and commerce. The kind of madness that brews distrust about downtown from South LA's real black base. The longtime residents, citizens, churches, establishments, and business owners, mom and pop or otherwise. We've always been peace-loving and stable, and this is not how we expect to be treated. It's time for retributive justice. I'm no politician, and I'm definitely not a broadcast journalist. I'm not even a communications engineer. But I'm also not another transplant from another city or another state. I'm a second-generation Angelino entrepreneur, private citizen, and man of faith. I'm on the front lines in South LA with others, building businesses, families, churches, and pillars of stability in the city, because I believe we could make a difference. Mom and pop businesses seek to make a difference through networking, community building, entrepreneurship, and economic inclusion. But for whatever reason now, we're being railroaded. This isn't business. It stopped being business when PCR ineptly circumvented the guidelines, then covered it up. It stopped being business when people colluded to keep others in the dark about what was done. They shared the actions, the reasons, and even the jokes. This isn't business, and it certainly won't be business as usual. This isn't personal either. It's political. It's political because people use their political positions of power and influence in public service and administration to disrupt, dismantle, and destroy 26% of the businesses they were supposed to help, using the program that was meant to help. This is political because people use their positions to circumvent the provisions of public assistance and cheated constituents to do so. This is political because those whom we elected to serve ignored and condoned ineptitude and scandal and failed to provide adequate oversight to those responsible for the public trust. The people we have don't care. I do. I must care. South Los Angeles, South Central LA, Watts is my home, my birthplace, and my passion. I must protect my hood. I met the world-famous actor, Mr. Richard Gant, one day with my youngest daughter in February of 2018, as we ate at the soul food restaurant called Delicious, across the street from what we hope will remain Lamert Park. He overheard our conversation, and when I recognized who he was and asked for his autograph, he gave this note to me. I am humbled because now I understand what he meant. Protect our heritage. So no, Supervisor Thomas, new businesses on Crenshaw Boulevard aren't being supported by your plans. We're forced to bear the burden on our own and in a peculiar way. And no, Councilman Dawson, we won't finance the beautification of our own gentrification. Financing our own oppression from police is quite enough. And Mr. Mayor, the entire picture is painted for you. Our doors are open on Crenshaw, and most of our phones have not been turned off yet. What will you say to these things? How will you consider the truth? We know how the rest of our local leaders stand, and they're afraid to sit and talk with us. Our community wants to hear from you. Railroading, gentrification by construction. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It is still makes IT work. And now we do this too. Disruptive technology at work in the hood for the good. Blatant and outright oppression in the hood isn't covered by American media. But because of and thanks to PCR and Metro and the city of Los Angeles, we can cover it. We'll check things out. The media and the press only broadcast the results of the uncivil nature of our so-called civil society, the gross injustice of our so-called justice system, and the prison industrial complex, and the insensitivity and iniquity of public officials. But nobody in the hood would or could expose the corruption we face in real time, until now. I have a personal and a critical concern to expose the ineptitude, slander, corruption, insensitivity, iniquity, and greed that has plagued South Los Angeles from downtown and around town for decades. The kind of mess that people who look like me do to people who look like me. The kind of mess that's been going on for far too long in our hoods, communities, and cities. We challenge our own survival. We kill each other, steal from each other, rape each other, and we purposefully resist each other on every front for no reason at all. It's time for a change from self-inflicted oppression. We need to get it together if we expect any opportunity to address the real matters of reparation, restitution, and retributive justice. The time is now, and we must be ready. Billions of dollars are allocated for nonprofit and non-government organizations to provide public service or assistance in urban areas. And the money never reached the public with the kind of impact that it should. Is this another case of what is the norm? What's really happening with the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority's Business Interruption Fund? $10 million per year is too much money to set aside for any business to fail, much less 26% of all businesses that were helped, and especially while half of the money still sits in the bank or somewhere. While their hatred may be concealed by trickery, their wrongdoing will be exposed in public. Proverbs 26:26. Stay tuned. We'll be looking at much more. It's imperative that we do. To whom much is given, much is required. Let's see where this goes. I'm Larry Broussard.